So looking at this chart from today, it's pretty obvious I had a pretty bad day today. I took 4 trades, I took 4 losers. I played both calls and puts and lost on both. So let's go back and figure out why. This first one here, I entered at 10:04. I bought calls. What I was looking at was this. I'm going to switch this over to the 1 minute. Get a little bit clearer detail of what I was looking at on that candle. The stop for that was actually a 5 minute to close red below VWAP, or below the 8 SMA, which it did. 8 EMA, which it did do. And that should have been my plan to get out, but I had a little bit of a technical difficulty with my phone, and I didn't get it closed out right away. And then I got into a pattern of analysis paralysis. So what I did was screw the pooch on that one and closed out all the way down here at the absolute bottom of this move. This was green for a bit. This was actually up 30%. So this wasn't exactly a bad place to get it on a retest of this pre-market high. This green arrow is. The entry on this was actually pretty good for this. There just was no continuation, and I should have noticed that because I didn't have this little handy-dandy trend line here drawn. You can see that this one, for the day this pattern was diverging, which the way I like to play these is a bounce off the top and the bottom to go back and clear up to the other side or down to the base of the diverging pattern. I didn't do that today, so I lost the big picture, and it cost me 4 losses in a row, which hurts. It doesn't hurt from dollar amount, but 2 of those losses were twice what they should have been because I made stupid mistakes and didn't respect my stop, and then I went on tilt and I took 2 more trades that I should not have taken. From this bottom here, I watched it come back up, clear VWAP again, test VWAP again. Granted, this little red here was on lower volume, and that really would have been the one to get in. This is another one. This here, once I got in here, was on this green close above, and I was still playing this on the 5 minute. So let's go back to the 5 minute. I actually got into this right before this candle closement was up here because it was still showing green and had pretty good volume. And then I should have immediately closed this out at 10:30, and I did not, because I was at that point watching it on the 1 minute because I was trying to snipe the entry. Otherwise, this violated one of my trend rules, which is a red close below the 8 exponential moving average is an entry for a downtrend. A green close above the 8 exponential moving average is an entry for an uptrend. So what I did was I bought calls on a put entry. And this is about where tilt started because I realized I was making a series of poor decisions. And this is another one. I sat and the stop on this was closed below VWAP. If I was watching this on the 1 minute at the time, which it sort of did here, that would have been the one to get out. And then we got this dump candle, so I should have been getting out on close of this, seeing look at the way this volume came up. This is one that was kind of begging for a continuation down, and that's the one I ended up closing it out on. So 0 for 2, stupid preventable mistakes on both. That was actually twice the loss I should have taken dollar-wise. And 2 trades that were both green that I watched turn red before closing out because I was playing the incorrect strategy. And if you notice, I was also playing these in between these lines. This was actually This was actually a touch of a close above SPX 4500. It was retesting SPX 4500 at the time, and it had come back down to retest it and closed above, so I got in based on that ground, but I was only watching the SPX chart at the time. That's why I missed this. So I usually like to trade watching both of those. I also watch ES. Those three charts all affect each other in different ways. And this one was another dumb error. I was watching this one. This was about lunchtime. And I should know better than to trade during lunch. The volume's too low. The premiums are cheap because the volatility's not there. But what I was actually looking at here was not even on the 5 minutes. This is a strategy I never do. This is why I say this. I went on some dumb tilt today. I'm going all the way to the hourly. So number 3 was right here. You can see I had the TTM squeeze it was showing red dots, which means it was a point of low volatility. It was kind of building up momentum to release. It was sitting at the time below this EMA stack, which had the 21 above the 8 and the 5 was below that. So it was actually in the downward direction, but it was on the hourly, and I was looking at that, and I wanted to get into something I could just, and this was where I tilted. Figured if I get into a contract cheap enough that's just far enough out the money I can get 100% return on it, I would have felt better for the day. And that did not happen, because it's right here I bought calls. No, this was my put play. I bought puts here. I was anticipating it to come back down. You can see here, high, lower high, questionable lower high, lower low, lower low, lower low. I was expecting this to be a top. It was right around this area where I had been seeing the previous resistance, that it was kind of fluctuating around, dumped underneath it, and I figured this was going to be the retest of that resistance support to see if it was going to turn into resistance, and it did not. So instead of closing out here where it tapped VWAP like I should have, I let it come all the way back up to prior day close because I made another foolish, tilty decision. And that's all there is to that. And here's the one that really just, I could have screamed about this. This was so foolish. This was just dumbassery at the highest level that I've committed in a while. And I knew I was doing it at the time, and I could not stop myself. This is where I say I keep struggling with my mental, because I got in here on this candle close, looking at on the 1 minute all this volume for this upper wick. This is like one of my textbook indicators of there were a lot of buyers that pushed this up and even more sellers to push it back down. This was only able to really open and close in this part of the range, and there was a ton of trading, and this was a long candle, which means it was not able to actually clear that whole range. It had to come back down from the beginning, and that indicated a big presence to me of sellers up here, which is exactly what it showed, because when I got into calls here, it went up. I got it on I waited till it traced back down here. I think I got in somewhere right about 75 cents, 75 cents, somewhere in here. 449.75. Again, it went green temporarily. It went up to what? 85. I got like 10 cents out of it, and then it dumped back down, and it closed down. This dump candle here should have been the stop, but it wasn't because I was slow. I waited for this one to close out, so I was about one candle too late. That was about the only wise decision I made all day, was closing that out when I followed when my plan dictated I should. I did not follow my plan. I wrote everything out this morning, and I actually had written that I wanted to play a bounce or a reject from pre-market high, which would have been this. It would have been this. This would have been break above, failure to hold. Retest above, failure to hold, new low, or lower high. Then this, even if I got in on this dump candle here, set my stop at a close above, or above this previous high, the close above this previous high. And then I would have gotten, what, 20... VWAP would have been a target where I would have set my stop loss at break even, and then I would have had another 40 cents worth of moves. So it still would have gone up. That likely would have been a, that would have been another 50 or 60% scalp right there. And it never really made a new high here. So if I had just trimmed half and held on to it until stop out at the original stop point, which is high here, it would have continued down and eventually hit the other end of the range of pre-market low. So that would have been the correct way to play that as I had written it out this morning. So a lot of lessons learned here. I have a lot of work to do still on patience and just sticking to my plan, because when I do that, I see this every time I have a bad tilt day like this, is my plan worked and I got too impatient to follow it. It's very simple. It's very consistent, and I need to bring myself to stop doing it. So that's it for today. I may not trade tomorrow. I'm still going to do my pre-market, and I will put it on my Instagram, but I am not going to feel like I need to trade tomorrow. Watch, I say that tomorrow's going to be, we're going to have hit Santa rally tomorrow. It's going to do something crazy. So, thank you. Have a great night.